All right, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, let's
What's the
start.
topic again?
So what we're going to do is, today is we're entering the 15th of Teves,
Right.
and Chavad, the 24th of Teves, 9 days from now, is the Yahrzeit of the Alter Rebbe, which I think falls out next week, Thursday night or Friday night. So we're going to learn a talk the Rebbe gave on the 24th of Teves in the year 1963, or it was the end of 62, and that year they were remembering the 150th year of the passing of the Alter Rebbe. So what happened was, from the 18th of Elul, the end of the year 5722, which is the end of 59, the end of 62, before Rosh Hashanah, the Rebbe started to talk about the significance of 150 years of passing of the Rebbe. And he had all kind of ideas that the Rebbe felt people should take upon themselves, resolutions and ways to prepare to celebrate the unique number of 150. I mean, 150 is like the amount of Psalms there are in Tehillim, and the Rebbe coined it as the word Shnas HaKan. Kan is Kuf Nun, Kuf is 100, Nun is 50, 158. So when it came to the actual day of the Yahrzeit, the Rebbe's Yahrzeit fell out, the Alter Rebbe's Yahrzeit fell out on Sunday, so it's the Motzei Shabbos, and there was also Shabbos Shemois. That was the Motzei Shabbos. Now, Chof Teves, the 24th of Teves, if it's around Shabbos, Shabbos will be the Shabbos of the month of Shabbat. The Rebbe always bring the Shabbos before blessing of the new moon, and the Rebbe bring that Shabbos afternoon. Everyone thought maybe there was no information about any kind of significant Farbringans that there would be for the 150th year. So the Rebbe bring on Shabbos, which is the day before, the evening, and the Chassidut thought that maybe that was just the Farbringen. Suddenly the Rebbe announced that he's going to come out to Farbring Motzei Shabbos, Saturday night again. The Rebbe walked out exactly. You have to remember, the Alter Rebbe passed away on a Saturday night, when he passed away. And he made Havdalah on coffee. He said he was really not feeling so well. We know that we're going to learn soon about a story that happened.
Why didn't he make it on, like, just asking, on grape juice or something?
That we didn't have. He was running away. He was on the run. He wasn't at home.
Okay.
He was on the run from Napoleon. He got sick suddenly and he passed away. Motzei Shabbos.
How did he pass?
We don't know. I think they say today I think he had a diabetes stroke. Yes, I think he was diabetic. And Friday afternoon, he took out of his pocket a paper, and they say that was what we're going to learn now, the Nefesh HaShvela, one of the famous small notes of the Alter Rebbe, very powerful idea the Rebbe teaches that night. The Rebbe came out exactly, almost to the minute when the Alter Rebbe passed away, is when the Rebbe came out to Farbring. We have these on recordings since 1962. We were recordings. It was a very serious Farbringen. Very, you hear the Rebbe is very serious. His voice is very serious. And that was the Farbringen for Saturday night, going into the 150th year. The Rebbe came out a second time, Sunday night, 12 o'clock at night, and he Farbringen the second time for the Yahrzeit of the Alter Rebbe, in a much more, let's call it Leviticus story. And I think we told the story in one of the classes we gave before, that the Alter Rebbe walked out. The Rebbe walked out in the middle of Farbringen. The Rebbe said that everyone should empty their pockets. Did we tell that story once? The Rebbe said that everyone should empty their pockets. Whatever you have in your pocket, whatever kind of, you have $100, $50, it's 1962. $10, empty your pockets. I heard a story from my father's friend, his name is Rabbi. He was there. He said that himself, my father, and another rabbi named become the Rosh Hashiva in Florida, just were around and because it was a sudden Farbrengen, it wasn't a pre-announced Farbrengen, and they decided to go to 770, and they heard that the Rebbe was going to come out, so they stayed. Not everyone managed to make it to the Farbrengen, and they were there at the Farbrengen. And the Rebbe said everyone should empty their pockets. Now what happened was, you hear on the tape, the Rebbe was talking, and the Rebbe says, I think we need to sing a song. And the Rebbe started to sing the song, Vakosi Lachem Rafa Adudai, which is the song that traditionally is connected to giving blessings and all that. And the Rebbe said, then the Rebbe said, after the song, the Rebbe said, it looks like the idea, whatever had to happen, happened. So no one knew what the Rebbe was talking about. Rabbi Zachi says a story that he heard that there was a Jew who wasn't a Chassid particularly a Chassid of Chabad. I mean, not against, he just thought he wasn't a Chassid. And he owed, in a business transaction, he owed a very large amount of money to someone that he was going to fulfill in cash. And so they said, you know what, I'm going to be in Shul tonight. He says, so come to 770. He didn't know that there was a Farbrengen. Come to 770 for Meyer. And he says, and I'll drop you off the envelope of, I think it's like $35,000, a lot of money in 1962. And it's a lot of money now too. So he says, okay, fine. And he gives him the money. And then he I guess he hung around a bit, and then he found out that the Rebbe was coming out to Farbrengen. So this person also stayed at the Farbrengen. He wasn't a chassid. They figured the Rebbe's coming out. He didn't stay. The end of the Farbrengen, the Rebbe says everyone empty their pockets. This chassid has in his pocket an envelope of $35,000. That was not his money. It was money that he was part of his business transaction. He shall be owed people also money for the transaction. It was a jewelry transaction. So this non-chassid is the only other person in the room who knows that this person has in his pocket $35,000, and he wants to see what is he going to do. The Rebbe said, "Empty your pockets." So the Rebbe said, the Rebbe started to sing the song, the person stuck his hand into his pocket, took out the envelope of $35,000 and put it into the pot. So that's the story. You see it a little bit in the
So what happened?
Well, he ended up becoming a very successful, wealthy man. Most of his children are shluchim around the world. I think I know who it is. And he was put to a test, and whatever the meaning of the test was, it worked.
But he wasn't killed or anything that night for not returning the money.
No, it was his money. He had to pay his people. He had to figure it out other way. Yeah. I mean, he had to pay it to other people, to pay for their goods. All right, we're going to start learning the Farbrengen that the Rebbe Farbrengen on Saturday night. Okay, so I'm going to read and then translate. I'm going to get a bit into the Nefesh HaShvela, I believe, towards this, into the second when's the Nefesh HaShvela? I think we have it, well done.
Let's do one. Oh, finish it off.
Okay. Lesson around for rain. Here we go. Okay. So again, the Rebbe walks out about 10:30 at night to this Farbrengen. This is in the winter. This is already well after Shabbos. The Rebbe starts the Farbrengen with this. When it comes to a day of the passing of a tzaddik, or especially of a Rebbe, Kosev Rabbeinu Nisiyenu b'michtav shekvar nitzvos midivrei kvoitishis admer maharshav nishmasedim. My father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, writes that's already been printed in the name of his father, the Rebbe Rashav. That what does he write? That Baruch Hadavar, it's clear. Shebimei ha'ilula ma'orim harevim rachim ma'kol ha'chasidim. When it comes to a day of a ha'ilula, a day of a Yahrzeit of a tzaddik, the Rebbe, awakens and arouses compassion on all his chasidim, even after his passing. It's those who are connected to the Rebbe on his day of his passing awakens, arouses rachim and compassion al hachasidim, all hachasidim, all his chasidim, nishayim, their wives, v'ildeim, and their children. El shazui rakis oiris rachim chlalis. This is a general compassionate awakening. Aval hachasidim shekoivim b'yom ha'ilula limud v'svadis chasidus. But the chasidim, they not only are chasidim, but they actually celebrate and commemorate the day of the passing of the tzaddik by learning his Torah and participating in a Farbrengen. Avuram, for those chasidim that actually, so to say, commemorate the Yahrzeit, he's oideris rachim acheres legamri. It's a whole other kind of awakening of compassion. Kalimud v'hisvadis hemapidi nefesh. The Rebbe teaches us an amazing thing. When you study the Torah of a Chassid, of a Rebbe, a Chassid studies the Torah of a Rebbe on the day of his passing, and has a farbrengen, it's like writing in a pidyon nefesh, like writing in a pan, which is known that a Chassid goes into a Rebbe. It's like an atonement of the soul. It's a connection soul to soul between the Chassid and the Rabbi. That the Chassidim are giving to the Rebbe who passed away. So by learning on Gimel Tammuz, the Rebbe's Chassidus, and farbrengen, you're connecting to the Rebbe, and Yud Shvat, you're connecting to the Rabbi and the previous Rebbe, and Chof Teves, you're connecting to the Rebbe and to the Alter Rebbe. Before Kaddish is Ad Mashlita Tziva, and then the Rebbe said to sing the song Avinu Malkeinu, which is a song that was taught us. We have tradition from the Alter Rebbe. The Nigan Admar Zokin, the 4 notes, the Dal Bavas, the 4 parts. The Achkaf Amar Maimer Divar Masla, then the Rebbe said a Chassidic discourse that we're not going to study now. That says, it starts off with the Medrash Chazal that says that Ein Moisrin Razi Torah, we only give the secrets of Torah to someone who's really cares to know the secrets of Torah. That person, he or she, gets the revelations. Okay, so that's how the farbrengen starts off. After that, the second Sikha, the Rebbe starts to talk. The Rebbe says this, Yesh kam minyanim, shebehem ei machshvim shois. There are certain things that's not important to know the times when things happen. V'hainu, shekasha yeshna inya b'ter mitzvahs shenikra, b'glal l'ur mesuyam, she'ira b'yoy mesuyam, Alpha Pisha, Pam Shiny Ira Dover Bisham Suyam, as an espashat Africa Akolian Fulan. So the Rebbe says there's certain events that it's not important to know the exact time when it happens. If something happens at a certain date, so then even if it happened at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, then the whole day becomes a significant day. We don't say we're specifically remembering a certain time of the day. The day doesn't, when you commemorate the day, it doesn't happen at a certain time. It happens throughout the 24 hours of that day. Even more so, it's not only for that specific time, it spreads for the full 24 hours. It goes to the whole day. The Rebbe says, however, there are things that it is important to know the hour of when something happened. The Rebbe says in certain laws, there's certain things the Rebbe doesn't quote what they are. He brings down from the Encyclopedia Talmudis that it's important to know the hour of when the thing happened. If it happens after a certain point of the day, so then it's important to know within the significance of the time. Where do we see an example? It says, the Rebbe says an example of when time is important. Basically, find both the idea that where time is significant and not significant when it comes to the holiday of Passover. That's when the Jewish people went into conversion, so to say, into Judaism. Even though that when it says that when did the redemption start, that God went down on the final night of the plague of the death of the firstborn, it says in the Torah, the Torah tells us clearly, when did the redemption start? Moshe Rabbeinu tells us, the redemption is going to start exactly at midnight. Nevertheless, when do we remember Mitzrayim? We don't only remember at midnight. It doesn't start from midnight. As soon as the sun sets on the evening of the 15th, is when Pesach starts. Even though the actual miracle and the redemption started at midnight, first time round. Also, we take in Yom Tov obviously a few minutes before the night comes in, when it's Shkia, when the sun starts to set. As we do in every Shabbos and Yom Tov. Because we don't count the hours. So it's not important to know that as far as the holiday goes, that Pesach only starts at midnight. Pesach starts at sunset of the night of the 15th, even though the first night it only happened at the time of midnight. העניונים שבהם החשוב choice. שזהו שבחג הפסח רופו יש חילוק בין קודם חסייס לאחר חסייס. But at the same time, we know that there is a difference between before midnight and after midnight. Where do we see that? That a person, we make sure that we eat the matzah the first night. When do we make sure to complete the seder? Before midnight. In Eretz Yisrael, we only have one night, but even in Chutz La'aretz, we have 2 nights. The first night, we make sure to complete the seder, to finish the matzah of the afikomen before midnight. So we do see that the hour, just like the first year we had to eat the matzah before they left Egypt, so too, when it comes the night of the Seder, we're very careful, and the Rebbe says that even opinions that say that the halal that we say after the benching also has to be done before midnight. It's tied with our mitzvahs in Yonim Sheish Behem Beis in Yonim Anah. In Yonim Sheish Behem Rak Echad Min Shnayim. So the Rebbe says there are certain things that have time components, and while they also have the day components, and some that only have one of the two. Now, the Rebbe is going to go into a Yahrzeit. When it comes to a Yahrzeit of a tzaddik, in the beklavis lemetzinu bekol hanyonim hakshur min yom ha'ilula sheyivem chilik ben hashas sheba ha'isa ha'istalkes v'pamishayna ben shar shayasiyah. We don't find that it comes to the death of a tzaddik, right? We know Moshe Rabbeinu died when? 7th of Adar. It's not important for us to know the exact time. We don't include the exact time of Moshe's passing to his passing. We know Rashbi B'Yachai, passed away the 18th of the year, known as Lag BaOmer, 33rd of Omer. It's not so much remembered the exact time he passed away. So we don't find traditionally by a Yahrzeit that the time of when the tzaddik passes away, when Miriam passed away, so we know when Miriam passed away, but we don't know exactly when Rachel passed away, right? She passed away the 11th of Cheshvan. So we don't know exactly the time. It's not important to us the time, we know the date. Amnam. The Rebbe says, however, but if there comes a Yahrzeit of a tzaddik, that it's mentioned in the story of the Yahrzeit, the time of when this tzaddik passes away, then it makes a difference for the coming time, in the coming generations when we celebrate it, to know the exact time. I know when the Rebbe passed away. It was around midnight, right? When the Rebbe passed away in Gimel Palace. So we also know that when the Alter Rebbe passed away. And therefore the Rebbe is saying, even though traditionally it's not something that's important to know the timing of a passing, when it comes to the Alter Rebbe's Yahrzeit, because we do know it, therefore it is significant to know the timing. Again, the Rebbe came out to this Fabrengen exactly at the time when the Alter Rebbe passed away. The Rebbe actually quotes Moshe. When it comes to the passing of Moshe, that he passes away on Shabbos, even though, again, sorry, I made a mistake, the Moshe Rabbeinu, even though the whole day was the day of the passing of Moshe, how do we remember the timing of Moshe's passing? Is when we say the special prayer for Moshe's passing every Shabbos, which is the prayer that we say before Aleinu Tzidkoscha. It's a little Tzidkoscha that we say after the Chazan finishes repeating the Amidah. And before we say Aleinu, there's a little tefillah called Tzidkoscha. That tefillah is said to remind us of the passing of Moshe Rabbeinu. The reason we say by Mincha is because he passed away about Mincha time. So to applies to Alter Rebbe. The Alpha Pish Ben Gale of Nigmei Hayilula, Shekola Nesiim Yoidim Be'erach Ve'ezah Shah, Yom Haisa Histalkus. Even though when it comes to generally to the rabbis, we know when they passed away, the timing. We don't find that it's pointed out. When it comes to the Alter Rebbe's passing, the Rebbe says, we have the holy notes of the Tzemach Tzedek with regard to the passing of the Alter Rebbe. That he says, not only does he tell us that in general, the Alter Rebbe passed away after Havdalah on the Motzei Shabbos of Parshas Shmos. Footnote number 10, Yesh L'Tzayin, just want to point out, When did the Rebbe walk into the Farbrengen Saturday night, Motzei Shabbos, Kodesh, to start the Farbrengen of the Yahrzeit? B'shad 10:25. The Rebbe walked at exactly 10:25, which is around the time the Alter Rebbe passed away. So the Rebbe is kind of opening the Farbrengen to say that it's not by chance that he walked out 10:25, but that this is the time the Alter Rebbe passed away. Okay. So this is the opening of the Farbrengen. We're going to learn now a little bit of a complicated part, which is the note of the Alter Rebbe that we have from around the time he passed away, and the note is called the Nefesh HaShvela. The Nefesh HaShvela is only printed in this book, Ner Jarim. We don't have it in another source. And this is the book of, again, we're going to learn now about this note that the Alter Rebbe left prior to his passing, and the Rebbe is going to teach it. Okay. One of the things connected to the passing of the Alter Rebbe is the Igeres, is the note or the letter of the Nefesh HaShvela, the Emes La'amitoi B'Sharshay. What's a Nefesh HaShvela mean? What's the word Shafel mean? Shafel means the lowly soul. So the Nefesh HaShvela, the lowly soul, the Emes La'amitoi B'Sharshay, and it's Emes, it is truth, La'amitoi, it's real truth, and it's root. So we're trying to understand the root of the lowly soul. Okay, so it's a little cryptic, this Ageris of the Nefesh HaShvela of Emes.
He was dying.
Yes, there's clear signs he knew he was dying. Shekosev Rabbeinu, this note that the Rebbe wrote, known as the Ageris of the Nefesh HaShvela be'emes la'amitoi b'sharsha, was written by the Alter Rebbe Korev Zman Histalkusei prior to his passing. Okay. Yesh bezeh kama girsois. There's different versions of the note. Rigoyim achodim means also when he wrote it. Some opinions is Rigoyim achodim koidim asher moseh nishmoseh. Mamish before he gave up a few minutes before he passed away, he wrote this note about the Nefesh HaShvela. I'm going to just say outside that the point of the Nefesh HaShvela, it's a powerful note. The idea of the note is that even if we don't have the ability to find truth in our life, we can't really get to the Midas Emes, we can't get to our real truth, we still have a way to serve Hashem. That's the point of the Nefesh HaShvela. Is when a person's struggling with Emes, so sometimes you may say, if I'm struggling with Emes, with truth, so what's the point of doing anything? If I can't find my inner truth, so how can I even begin to serve Hashem? And the Rebbe says is that it's the Alter Rebbe's note basically is that even though the Nefesh HaShvela means the lowly soul, can't really get into grips with its truth, it still has a purpose and an important, significant purpose in its service of Hashem. So the Rebbe is like this, that there's different opinions when he wrote it. Some people say right before he passed away, Karvaz Manis Taklose, or B'Shvul Ifnei Taklose, or a week before he passed away. Either way, it's obviously within a few days of his passing, or a few hours, or a few minutes. It says, Shemati Pam Mikoy Kedushas Moir Cham Yadmid. The Rebbe says, I once heard from my father-in-law, meaning the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbeinu Zokin, and the Alter Rebbe, known as Rabbeinu Zokin, which means in Hebrew the Alter Rebbe. Bodak v'roiken es kisei be'erev Shabbos Kodesh. It came Friday afternoon before he passed away, Shabbos Shemois, and he was emptying his pockets. The custom is you have to empty your pockets on Shabbos. Not everyone has an Erev in Yerushalayim, so make sure you don't carry anything. You have to make sure your pockets are empty. And it was Parshas Shemois, that Shabbos. B'chol Erev Shabbos, like the Rebbe says, that's the custom of every Shabbos. Shemitzvah, it's a commandment. L'mashmesh b'kisei, to check your pockets to make sure you don't carry. There was a little piece of paper, and v'nosno l'tzemach tzedek. That piece of paper, the Alter Rebbe gave to his grandson, the Tzemach Tzedek. You have to remember the Mittel Rebbe, the son of the Alter Rebbe, son-in-law, father-in-law of the Tzemach Tzedek, also / uncle of the Tzemach Tzedek, was not there when the Alter Rebbe passed away. So here the Tzemach Tzedek is with his grandfather, and the grandfather is checking his pockets according to the version of the previous Rebbe, and he has a little piece of paper that he finds in his pocket. He gives it to the Tzemach Tzedek, and he tells the Tzemach Tzedek, "Es vet dir zu nutz kommen." You're going to need this note. One day you're going to need this note. So, like he says in Hebrew, "Yavel lecha l'shimush." It's going to come in handy, this note. Yesh Imrim, and the previous Rebbe tells the Rebbe, I believe that's the understanding, it was the note that we're about to learn now of the lowly soul. Based on what the previous Rebbe says, that he took it out on Friday afternoon and it was already in his pocket, means he didn't write it a few minutes before his passing. On Motzei Shabbos, it was already written in his pocket, and he only found it in his pocket or took it out of his pocket on Shabbos afternoon, Friday afternoon. And the Rebbe says now, on a side note, the Rebbe says, I find it wondrous that when we have so much teachings about the Rebbe that there's so much explanation. But this important note, when it comes to this note, we don't find a kapan. The Rebbe says, I didn't see. That was properly published. Or that anyone references to this note. Or explains the note. Again, like I said, it's the note is a bit cryptic, but the Rebbe is going to explain it a bit. Nevertheless, we do have reliable, not maybe the official publications of the Alter Rebbe's Torahs, but we have reliable sources that do publish this note. It's a proof that it's accurate. Not just the general content of it, that he wrote it, that the Alter Rebbe wrote it before his passing. Even the specifics of the note are reliable. The Rebbe says there may be the small differences between the different publications that did publish it. From there we see that the small differences are not enough significant to say that there's major different versions of it. So the basic, the detailed context is pretty much intact. Most of the versions, I'm not sure how many versions we have in this book of Meir Sha'arim, but it's brought down pretty much the same word for word, maybe small differences, and therefore the Rebbe is now going to explain it. This is the wording of the note. So the note goes like this. This is what I wanted to teach tonight. The Rebbe says like this: Nefesh hashveila be'emes la'mitei b'sharshay. The true lowly soul at its root. So what? Aveidasehi Torah Gashmi. Its job, its avodah, its service of Hashem is in performing the Torah mitzvahs in a physical manner. Bein la, or bein lahavim lachem, whether it's for itself or to explain others, is to explain the Torah in its gashmis, or to perform the mitzvahs in its physical form. Or bein gemilas chasadim gashmim. You can't learn a concept of being kind. You actually have to be kind. You have to do acts of kindness, physical acts of kindness. It's not good enough to have gemilas chasadim ruchnim, spiritual, be a spiritually giving person. You have to be a material, physical giving person. How? He says, Aidei kiruv hadas ve'etzis mirachik. By getting close to a person in their das, means becoming close with another person in understanding what the next person needs, being able to give ideas, eitzos, give suggestions from a distance. I'm not sure what from a distance means. Let's just try to go through it and see how much we understand. Okay, so I think this is b'chol inyane, in all b'nei beisim, I think, in all the person's personal needs. He says, Af ki rubam ki kulam him divrei sheker. The Rebbe says, even though most of the time a person is living in a world of falseness, sheker is falseness. Efsher, nevertheless, a person may think if there's falseness in my interactions, in my actions, in my Torah mitzvahs, nevertheless, it's impossible. A person shouldn't try to do it only if he could do an actual chesed of truth. He ain't emsal Torah, because there's no way to get to real truth without Torah. The emes amar, and what if you ask truth's opinion about creation? So the Medrash brings down that the Bereshis Rabbi brings down that when God asked truth, the attribute of truth, should I create the world? What does truth say? Al yivra, don't create. I mean, when God had a conversation with truth and says, what do you think about this idea of creating the world? Truth says, you ask me, this is not a good idea, don't create. Why? Shekulam alishkarim, the world is full of lies. Right? Don't we see that today, the lies that are going around? The chesed omer, but kindness said, God also had a conversation with kindness. Kindness said, Yivra, create the world. Shekulam alichasadim, because you could do, the world's full of good deeds. So what do we see? That the world is full of people doing chesed, but the world is also full of sheker, of lies. So when there's two opinions. Chesed is interested in the furthering of chesed. Chesed says, create the world. There's a lot of kind people out there. And emes says there may be a lot of kind people out there, but there's a lot of lies out there. And it's not a contradiction. That's the whole idea of this letter. It's not a contradiction. And chesed says to create. Shekulim alechasadim. V'stishlach emes arza. And truth was thrown down to the floor, so to say. So God decided to create a world that has kindness, that's not truthful. What does this even mean? This is crazy. You know what it is to have chesed. God created a world of chesed, she'ene shalamis. That's not truth. The Rebbe continues. The Alter Rebbe, this is all part of the note that the Alter Rebbe wrote before his passing. Ubedoyrus harishonim. And in the early years, in the early generations, means the times of the Mishnah, she'ikra avoida hayat Torah, the main service was the Torah of mitzvahs. Hayiroiva chesed nichlal be'emes. There was also inclusive, because of so much Torah study, that there was an inclusiveness, nichlal, of truth within the kindness. The hainu begoidel hamaisid the koifin mashkanin, because in the days of the great Tanoim, it wasn't like today. Today, you know, you do, if someone wants a fundraiser, right? You make a fundraiser, and you pitch your pitch. I do this and this. We have a good cause, and you're at the mercy of the person who wants to give, right? And then you have to make a big dinner and honor the person who gives a big donation, and you're at the mercy of the giver, right? Back in the days of the Talmud, it wasn't like that. Talmud was the court said, this is how much we estimate you have to give, and they forced you had to give. It was a tax. If they felt someone was able, they had to give.
That's what the Catholics do now. And give 10% to the church. You know?
So I mean, we have also idea of meiser. It was not just that they actually would come in and they would demand. It wasn't like, you know, they didn't throw. I don't know if they necessarily threw a major dinner and a fundraiser and honoree and all that. You had money. You come on, cough it up. We expect a $10,000 check from you.
Yeah.
So the Rebbe says that was in the earlier days. The Alter Rebbe says that there was the goydel hamaisa, the koifin mashkin. It was forced. Koifin means to be forced, and mashkin they would have to, like, when you go and you take it's like when they came to the half shekel coin. It wasn't like someone, you know, was half shekel coin. The Kohanim sent out. They had a system. If you didn't pay, they gave you a certain amount of time, and then someone came knocking at your doors. And if you didn't have a good answer why you didn't have the money, they would walk into your house and take things. Mashkin is you took a deposit until they paid up. The opposite goes api toikif teres emes ha'omeroyim, and the way that kindness was enforced was through the laws of Torah, the truth, and it was done by the great sages of the Talmud. That was once upon a time, the Alter Rebbe writes. Ashenke beikvis Mashiach, in the days of in the heels of the Mashiach, where there's no such system like that. Shnaflu sukkos David hanefeles ad offer the bechinas asiyah, that the house of David, the sukkah of David, fell down to the earth in the level of action. That the action no longer is a situation where the chesed was integrated with Torah. And we're talking about people that are serving Hashem on the level of a heel. What's the level of a heel? The heels represents where there's very little feeling and very little. It's the lowest part of the body, right? We call it the Akev. Beli Torah Semes, there's no truth of Torah. Mishnayos to Brises, we don't have the truth of the Mishnah and the Brisa. Shehen Gatfim V'Yarkin, those are the wings and the thighs of Torah. So, what's the Chesed now? If we don't have the Chesed, that's at least NACHLAOT, that's integrated with truth. So the Alter Rebbe says, Azai Roiva Chesed, Kikulei Hushleya Pitar Semes. That kindness is no longer integrated with Torah. Kindness becomes kindness became corrupt. Charity became corrupt. That's what the Alter Rebbe is saying. It's no longer from Torah Semes. The Goydel HaMaisa, it's about how much the person is doing. It's not connected with the Maisa of Torah. Kiyim Biskar Vadas Ha'osev Ritzoynei HaToiv. You have to hope for the person's goodwill. Harochik Me'emes, which usually is far from the truth, i.e., full of agenda. Why? What is the person? What do I get from my donation? I heard a story from Rabbi Deitch that the Rebbe once called in a Chassid, and he told him that he wants him to sponsor matzahs. This is early days. He wants him to sponsor the matzahs for the Soviet Union. This was before the fall of the Soviet Union, and because of being the Soviet Union, and it would be a COVID kind of operation, so he said that no one's going to know that you were the sponsor. And the Chassid said, it's a Chassid. Chassid says, do you have any ideas of donations I could give that I could get a plaque on the wall? And you offer me a donation that no one's going to know about. And the Rebbe had actually promised him, I heard the Rabbi Deitch, a story from the person himself. The Rebbe had to promise this person great rewards if he'd be willing to donate in a way that no one would know. So that's what the Alter Rebbe says. Today it's Rochek Min Emes. Kindness is far from the truth. Vasher hu soif ma'asim achshav tchila v'notz tchilasim u'soifan v'gam in ein rak derech acheres. So the Rebbe said like this, that even if there's no other way, and this is the only way, kindness that is integrated with corruption, it's not full of truth. V'hi shveilan, it's low. Azai le'nachme le'kabel ba'ava. We'll see what these last, the Rebbe is going to explain what the soul means. That even though that today we don't have the chesed of emes, but we should still accept with love and awake within our action to try to return to God, and it will be of an abundance. And these are just words. Let's see how much the Rebbe is going to explain from this note. So the Rebbe is like this. What is the note? This is the final note. This was the whole note, 10 lines, of a note called the Nefesh HaShvela, that is, again, printed in one version in the Meir Sharim, and the Alter Rebbe took it out of his pocket, according to the previous Rebbe, Friday afternoon before Shabbos, gave it to the Tzemach Tzedek. From somewhere or another, it went into some sort of publication, not in an official one, but in a publication, and that's what we have. So the Rebbe now is going to explain what is the idea of it. The idea of this note is like this. When we lived in the times of the Mishnah, when there were the great sages of the Mishnah known as the Tanoim, and the sages of the Talmud known as the Amaroim, then people served Hashem based on the Torah of truth. Whether they were people that were studying Torah, whether they studied themselves or with others, people who did kindness, they did it with truth. People excited just to do. What's it about? What is in it for me? To teach Torah, to learn Torah, to do chesed, it was all about the action, the ability to do something great. There were even situations where they forced someone to give tzedakah. It wasn't about honorary or reward. It was about, you had to do it. This is what a Yid does. A Yid does chesed. A Yid gives tzedakah. Whatever the Torah felt a person should give, those who were enforcers of the Torah, the sages of the time, the person had to participate. It's at later times. When the soul is at a low level, it's all about, it's not about the emes. It's about the materialistic. Torah became material. The study of Torah became material. It became a kind of it lost a little bit of its spiritual flavor. The chesed became about the material of chesed. It lost its emes. The nefesh that our service to Hashem in chesed and Torah came down in a lowly soul. Sorry, the Torah was Gashmi material, and our kindness was material. Nevertheless, even though it wasn't according to the truth of Torah, we no longer could force the person. It wasn't that the Torah forced the person. We had to rely on the person's goodwill. You had to speak to the person, that the person should want to be involved. And then you have to hope that the person is going to give a donation, or is going to do acts of kindness out of their own goodwill, not because they have to. Because when it comes to the truth, it says that the emes gets thrown to the ground. It's not about the emes, it's about the action. It means what the Alter Rebbe is basically teaching us in this letter is that when a person analyzes things today, and so a cynic will look around and say, you get 100 emails and there's sponsoring this and doing this, and people are doing this and getting involved, and a lot of people, they look at it and say, how real is this? How real is the person? Is the person trying to, as a person ready to do chesed that's not going to give a return to their cover, to their self-respect, to the attention that they get, to their status in society, right? So that's emes. That's what it means. Emes is thrown on the floor. The person may say, "What's the point of it?" It says, because if you want honesty, want a person to only be involved because that's the truth, the world wouldn't exist. If you want a person to be kind, and that the world should depend on the kindness of true people, you won't have a world. It's not going to work like that. It says, the world's not going to survive on that. Kumayim Rizal, Emes Omer Al Yivra. Emes said, don't create the world. It's not a truthful world. Only kindness says the bottom line, let's see what people are doing. And people are doing kindness, even if they have an agenda, just create the world because there'll be kindness. But Moisef, here the Rebbe says, the Rebbe adds, a gewaltige word. The Alter Rebbe says an amazing idea. The world is full of lies and kindness. It's a contradiction, but it's not a contradiction. We're talking about kind people, and the Alter Rebbe says it's false. It's not real. And I think that Alter Rebbe is really shining light, and if it was in other times, it's so much in our time, where you could be very cynical about people's intentions. You could be very cynical about the drive and how many people who really mean something with an emes. And a person may say, and judge people based on that, and judge today's time in general based on that. And Alter Rebbe is saying, never mind all that. That even if it's chesed shel sheker, but that's the world we live in, and that's the world that God decided. He knowing that it would turn out this way, God decided to create the world anyways. Someone who's kindness, became at it's a lie. It's a lie. It's not emes. The person doesn't mean it for the right. Possibly doesn't have the right reasoning behind it. The Rebbe says that the Alter Rebbe finishes. And the Rebbe says that the whole point of this is that you should affect on yourself and others to try to accept this with love. And the Rebbe continues, this is in our generation. It means the generation of the footsteps of Mashiach, with the heels leading to Mashiach. We're not going to survive if we judge. If we go with the measurement of judgment, midas emes, or if you want truth, if you're going to want to be very judgmental to every situation and nitpick between every who's really means it, who doesn't mean it, who's an honest person, who's not an honest person. The Rebbe says that the outcome may not be pleasant, like Emes told God, don't create the world. You have to go with kindness and approach a person, and if the person sometimes needs a little motivation, that's not, the Rebbe is also talking about when you makarev a person to Yiddishkeit. It's not just talking about tzedakah, but also chesed of kiruv, right? I mean, we makarev a person, that a person, whether the person who's being makarev or the person who's doing the kiruv, that sometimes there's, and if the person comes to the Seder because you're offering them a good meal, and there's a good cholent on Shabbos, and the person comes because the kiddush is nice, you may think, so does that really count? If I didn't feed this person, if we didn't have a nice l'chaim, a nice scotch, is the person going to show up anyways? That don't get so judgmental. Do kir v'das, be close to the person. Yesh l'hoisiv, the Rebbe adds, my result based on what we have, the teachings of Chazal teach us. That whatever he does, he asks the Jewish people to do, meaning Hashem. So the Rebbe says that's the way it is also by God. The nachboy lekabel ba'ava, to accept each of one of us with love. And maybe the things that are painful. The Rebbe says even if you may have things that you do that possibly could push away the feet of God, but if in general you're in the mode of doing, what's the bottom line of everything the Alter Rebbe writes? A person could have two approaches, right? A person could say, listen, I want to be an honest person. Or if I'm doing chesed, I want it to be real chesed. So don't wait for that. Even if you're going to do something that possibly is pushing away God, but if it's based on action and it's based on chesed, whether it's spiritual chesed or physical chesed, or if it's kiruv chesed, you're reaching out to another person. Even if you say, yeah, look at this person, he wants numbers at his class. He wants to have a big party on Hanukkah. How many people are going to look at his event? Never mind all that. The fact is that something happened. There's a lot of people could sit down and do nothing, and you could have a lot of truth with zeros. Imagine you have a lot of zeros in your truth, but you didn't do anything. The Rebbe says, when it comes to the promise, that there will be the revelation of Hashem, and everyone will see when the coming of Mashiach, that God's going to give him the true broadness, until the actual flesh will see the giving of Hashem. The Rebbe says, so should be. With the coming of Mashiach, this is the time of the Motzei Shabbos, is the time of the meal of the Mashiach. And he says, Suda the David Mak Mashiach, the meal of Mashiach with David HaMelech, which is on Motzei Shabbos. Okay. We're going to continue going with this Fabring. The Rebbe says, my father-in-law once spoke on the Sikha of the 18th of Elul, which is the birthday of the Alter Rebbe, whose passing is on the 24th of Teves. That same day, the 18th of Elul, is also not just the birthday of the Alter Rebbe, but before that, the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov. It says, "Oidus kamen yonim she'iru meshach kamen yoivlis the yoim hayledis Baal Shem Tov b'shnas Tov Ches." Then he writes, "Oidus kamen yonim she'iru b'meshach kamen yoivlis the yoim hayledis Baal Shem Tov," on about the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov. He says the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov, the first 50 years, was in the year Tov Kuf Ches. Tov Kuf Ches would be Tavshin. So Tavshin Tov Kuf would be 17. Tavshin Ches would be 1938. 1948, this is 1950, 1948. The tough Reish should be 1918. 1748, I guess. When the Alter Rebbe was 3 years old. Maybe besichas hamayim mishamar Baal Shem Tov b'chagigas chayelo v'negei Rabbeinu Zaken. Talks about the Baal Shem Tov who said about the Alter Rebbe. Mamshech besicha v'negei liyevel hasheni v'achri she'avru shtei yoivles mishnas tavkuf nunches, and another 50 years was when the Alter Rebbe turned 53, I guess. So the year tavkuf nunches would be 1798. After Agdamim regain star shiatzav of Erer after that was kind of Bezdin, Shesh by take of Godel Yoser, as a star shlayatzav of Erer. Over there, we're talking about when you have a document that is challenged, right? You have a document, a contract. The contract says so and so owes someone money. So if the contract is not challenged, so the contract says someone owes money. But if the contract is challenged, and it's been proven that the contract is real, is legitimate, so then now the contract is even stronger because it went through a challenge, and nevertheless it turned out to be okay. So too Chassidus goes through a challenge, and when it turns out that the Rebbe was victorious, gives the strength to Chassidus. That when the year 1798 is when there was the people who spoke negative about the Alter Rebbe to the Russian government. That's like a document that's been questioned, means document in this case being the teachings of Chassidus. And when the Alter Rebbe came out victorious, meant that the teachings of Chassidus were cemented in as something that's appropriate and important to the creation, important to the world, important to Torah. And based also on what the previous Rebbe teaches us, that the reason the Alter Rebbe was imprisoned here is because there was voices in heaven against the teachings of the Alter Rebbe, on those who were on the Alter Rebbe who was spreading the teachings of Torah. There's also a story that the Alter Rebbe had to justify a certain Talmud of a colleague of the Maggid who found notes of Chassidus that were rolling on the floor, meaning that people wrote notes of Chassidus, which is the teachings of Torah, and it went to the, it was flying around the wind. The Chof became limers lefisha yotza lavira, even though that there was a challenge against the teachings of Chassidus when it comes to actual. On the contrary, kivan shahashiva Rabbeinu Zaken. When the Alter Rebbe asked the Baal Shem Tov, how should he behave after he's freed from prison? Should he stop teaching Chassidus or continue? He said he should continue teaching Chassidus, or even in more spread teachings of Chassidus. Only because the Alter Rebbe was challenged with his methods of teaching Chassidus and then came out victorious. In heaven, it was decided that he was right to teach Chassidus. Therefore, he was also released from prison here. It's like a document that was challenged, and now that the document has been confirmed to be legitimate, so too the Alter Rebbe's teachings have been confirmed to be the right way in spreading Chassidus, and therefore it becomes stronger. That person should spread out. And Chassidim should spread out the secrets of Torah of Chassidus. That it has to come down into broad understanding, right? And the Rebbe did that even more deep with the today the Tanya and Chassidus in all languages and for the mass. And there are even people that possibly their souls, and the way they serve. They shouldn't really maybe be holding the levels of a person that should be learning the secrets of Torah. They could have the secrets of Torah, as is explained in the teachings of the Rebbe Rashab. But nevertheless, ever since the Alter Rebbe became out victorious, it became that, yes, we teach Chassidus. The Rebbe continues, another 50 years, after the Alter Rebbe was imprisoned in the year 1798, in the year Tov Reish Ches, so it's 100 years from the third birthday of the Alter Rebbe, which would be the year of Tov Resh Ches, is 1848. 1848. Gimel Yoevlis Meiladus Baal Shem Tov. This is 150 years of the birth of the Baal Shem Tov. Batel Hagzera Shahoisa Al Adfasis Tifre Chassidus Beglal Mesira. Then there was also the government of Russia at one point didn't let the publication of the teachings of Chassidus, and I guess in the year 1848 that decree was nullified. That there were some limitations, and in the year not 1848, is that's when they started the yeshiva, that the Rebbe Shab opened up the yeshiva known as Tam Chetmimim, which is known as the Chabad yeshiva. I guess it came up as an idea. They came into actual, started in the year 1747, but it came into completion in 1748, as is explained in the Sikha. So the Rebbe says, what's this all have to do with us? What are we talking about? The history of 50 years of the continuation and the spreading of Chassidus. The Rebbe says, B'shana Zu, this year, meaning 1963, is Nismalu Gimel Yoevlis. It is now 3 times of 50 years, meaning 150 years. Ma'ilula, from the passing of the Rabbeinu Zaken, when he passed away in the year Tov Kuf Ayin Gimel, which is the year 18 1813, I think. Well, Elu Hashem, these who ask, Ma'u Inyan Lasis Inyan Yuchad Lizikorin Bekeshim Melois Shloisha Yoivlis. The Rebbe says a person may challenge, what's so important in the 150 years? 3 times 50. Why is that a significant number? In Yeshimayna, there's an answer. We see from this talk of the previous Rebbe, we only have the words of the Rebbe. This was the custom. We may not have paid attention, or they may have not revealed the significance of each 50 years. Maybe there were individuals, like the Rabbis, we see that certain things happened within the framework of the 50 years from the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov. Then it became a custom that we celebrate, and it's a significant, a 50-year anniversary, and especially 3 times 50, meaning to say it's a big deal that this is 150 years of the Yahrzeit of the Alter Rebbe. But Inyan B'zeh, what does it mean to have a significant amount of years since the passing of the Alter Rebbe, specifically 150 years? When it comes to the passing of the Alter Rebbe, the children of the Alter Rebbe write in the Hagdama, in the forward to the Shulchan Aruch of the Alter Rebbe, the code of the Jewish law, that after the Alter Rebbe davened Ma'ariv and made Havdalah in the Ma'ariv, right? You do Havdalah in Ma'ariv, according to Das. The Das Tzlula, with a clear mind, Yusheves with Vekis Nifla, he was calm and he was in great Dveikus, he was contemplation of his prayers. V'chad Kitra Iskater Bey V'kucha Bricho, he became one and he passed away. And based on what we've said, that every time a Yahrzeit comes, we remember the Yahrzeit as if it happened fresh, which is why we're talking about this Sikha now tonight, is to get ourselves ready for the Yahrzeit of the Alter Rebbe. It's brought down in certain publications about how things are renewed each year when you commemorate the Yahrzeit. So it says B'chol Shabbos of Shabbos, and any Shabbos that comes around, B'chol Moed and Moed Hashem, or any holiday that comes, the light that initially shone on the first Shabbos, or the first holiday of Passover, or the first holiday of Shavuot, or the first holiday of Sukkot, comes and shines again each year. Shai Ba'is Zemanim, of those times, the Moisiv, and even with an additional light. Atki Ein Hefesh Ben Shabbos Bereishis Chol Shabbos. There's no difference than the first Shabbos and each additional Shabbos. It's a renewal of that Shabbos. There's no difference between the light the freedom that we experience the first Pesach with each Pesach that follows. So too with all the holidays. Our movements understood. The same thing now. When it comes to the Alter Rebbe's Yahrzeit. Each year we relive the energy and the significance of the Yahrzeit of the Alter Rebbe. Based on what it's brought down from the Talmud. That after the head, the body follows the way the head is. That if the Alter Rebbe had, which he's the head, had a significant moment in this day of his passing, which is, like it says, he passed away with a clear mind after he made the Havdalah on Saturday night, Motzei Shabbos, so too the body, which represents the Chassidut, that they go with the head, so too that they all have the elevations of the Yahrzeit. Okay, this talk is a talk that goes into the significance of the Yahrzeit of the Alter Rebbe. Let's see if we're going to go into something else in this Farbrengen. Let's learn a little. Let's go. I want to go further a bit. We'll go to Sif Yud Zayin, chapter 17. The Rebbe like this. Over b'yom Shabbos Kodesh. I spoke on Shabbos, meaning the Shabbos. This is Motzei Shabbos. So the Rebbe spoke Shabbos Shemois, 1963 or end of 62, whenever the 24th of Teves fell out. Negel Mashkasim, what it says, Moshe Hoyeraya Esoin. Moshe was a shepherd. Moshe Rabbeinu, our teacher Moshe, was a shepherd. The Yehanig Esoin, and he continues to be a shepherd. The Yovei Mount of Chor, he went to the Mount of the Har Hashem, which is later to be known as Har Sinai. Vayer Malach al Hashem Elov, and there was a revelation of an angel of God to Moshe. For Lavoi Seish, of the fire, right? Everyone knows Moshe Rabbeinu sees the fire in the snan, the burning bush. Kepashtus the Indian, the Rebbe says if one analyzes the story of Moshe Rabbeinu had the revelation of Hashem the first time reported in the Torah by the burning bush. So, but Kepashtus the Indian simply said, "Ein mikri yetzim le'efshute," not to get out of the simplicity of it. From Super Medrash also as it's taught in the Medrash, Shemoshe Rabbeinu rotz achri gedi shebaruch min eider. That how did Moshe Rabbeinu end up by this burning bush? It wasn't that the burning bush met him. It wasn't that Moshe was walking by the burning bush. Moshe was chasing a goat that ran away from the flock. One goat ran astray, right? So Moshe went to go find it. By chasing the goat, this young sheep, he ended up on Mount Sinai. And only then does God reveal himself in the fire. This has to be a lesson to us. What's the obvious lesson? When does God reveal himself to Moshe? It's when he pays attention to a lost sheep. Right? God could have come to him when he was in Yisro's house, when he was sitting there, whatever he was doing while he was watching the sheep. Only when he runs after a lost sheep does God reveal himself to him. The Rebbe says, there's a law that says, that I could be like Moshe. You say you give that person. So the law says if a person thinks he could be like Moshe, he gets lashes. Why does he get lashes? Because the Torah clearly says no one will ever be like Moshe. So how could a person say I'll be like Moshe? So the clause calling yon, that's only about if a person thinks he could be exactly like Moshe, about everything inclusive. That no one person could be like Moshe. But when it comes to individual ideas of Moshe Rabbeinu, we could take a lesson and we should try to emulate Moshe Rabbeinu. Other people should have that also. But the Rebbe says on the contrary. As the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, every Jewish person, everyone has a spark of Moshe in them. And that spark brings to each individual the idea of Our ability to connect to God and godliness through Torah mitzvahs is that we have a spark from Moshe. Moshe is the component of connection. So where does a person have the ability to really connect to godliness and holiness via Torah mitzvahs? Is from our spark that we have in Moshe Rabbeinu. So therefore the Rebbe says, a little bit, mirav tuvi, from the goodness in the light that he lights on Klal Yisrael, comes to each individual. Moshe empowers each and every Jew. By empowering each Jew to have a level of connection, he encloses himself within every Jew. Therefore, when Moshe says that it's not a big deal, it's a small thing to find, if you could just reveal your ability to fear God and have and to be in awe of God, is the reason why it's seemingly a simple thing is because of the component of Moshe within us. Because to Moshe to fear God, it's what's considered a milsa zutra, a small thing. And what you have to do, a person has to do, is reveal the component of Moshe in you, and then fearing God will become a simple thing. It'll be natural for a person to fear God. From the very fact that Moshe Rabbeinu could affect that within people, within the Jewish people, the component of Moshe within every person. We could so too learn from the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu had revelation by chastening the goat. You do a Pirush Baal Shem Tov, the Rebbe says it's known what the Baal Shem Tov teaches. Shisneh, what is the bush, the thorn bush that the fire reveals itself to Moshe? Koya Gashmis Olam. That is a representation of the material aspects of the world. The physicality of the world is the sneh, is the bush. When you compare the spirituality of the world, the physical material of the world is like a bush. What is our challenge? Our challenge is that a person would look at a bush plain, look at a tree. What do you see? You see a tree. Your job is to see the fire in the tree. Your job is that the world looks material. The world looks physical. And a person may say that's the world. I saw the Rebbe said an amazing thing this week. He spoke Parshas Vayigash 1992. The Rebbe said that it says that King Achashverosh made a meal kirtzoni shvish to the desire of every person. The Medrash says, well, what does that mean? He made it to the desire of every person. That for Haman, it was his meal. And for Mordechai, it was his meal. It was kosher food, it was glad kosher food, there was bagels and lox. Whatever you wanted, Achashverosh served at the meal. The Rebbe says that it doesn't just mean the physical meal. It also means that a person, the world gives you what you give it. If you want to look at Haman's perspective of the world, then you have Haman's world. If you want to have Mordechai's perspective of the world, then you have Mordechai's world. Same thing over here. If a person sees a sneh, if a person sees a bush, you can see the bush, or you can see the fire in the bush. You can see the physicality of the world, or you can see the godliness that's in the world. It's your choice. And that we get from Moshe Rabbeinu. So he says, Hasneh, and our job is to try to find the fire in the bush, like Moshe did. This is the lesson. A person says, how do I find the fire in the bush? How do I see godliness in the material world? So when did Moshe see it? When does a person have the revelation of godliness in the sneg, revelation of godliness in material world? This only comes about when you're committed to the flock. If you have a commitment to Klal Yisrael, you have a commitment to Am Yisrael, you can't expect there to be a revelation that you should be able to open your eyes, like the Rebbe says, open your eyes and see the fire. Open your eyes and not see a tree, but see a tree that has a fire burning that doesn't stop. If there's no investment, and the investment is you're giving over to the flock. To run after them, to be careful, to be caring for them. Then you could see the fire. The Rebbe's talking, you have to stand, the Rebbe's talking in 1962, teaching the Chassidim. You live in America today, let's be honest. There's a lot of trees, there's a lot of sneh, there's not a lot of fire. You want to see fire? Where's your commitment? Are you ready to chase the goat? Are you ready to chase one lost soul that runs away from the flock? We're not even talking about chasing to being involved in the flock. We're talking about finding, paying attention, realizing, caring that there's a goat that ran away. The Rebbe says, you have a story that the previous Rebbe tells. He says, it's a famous story that I'm sure you guys heard many times, maybe, possibly, by talks of Rabbi Goldberg, etc. After the Alter Rebbe passes away, so over Meshach Zman, it happened for a bit of time. The Alter Rebbe would reveal himself after his passing to his grandson, the Tzemach Tzedek, to later become the third Rebbe of Chabad, known as Tzemach Tzedek. And he would reveal himself to him. There was a period of time that he did not reveal himself to him. And he wanted to see his grandfather. But Tzemach Tzedek, he was in tremendous pain that he didn't have these moments of revelation from his grandfather. He tried all kinds of things, methods, doesn't say what they were, that his grandfather should come to him and reveal himself. Nothing helped. Whatever he tried didn't work. One day, the Rebbe tells the story in 1950 when he took leadership, 51. One day when the Tzemach Tzedek is on his way to shul, Pagish by Katziv, a butcher. For those days, it wasn't like today. That butcher just called up the processing plant. Those days, the butcher bought a cow, slaughtered the cow, prepared the cow, and that was his business, right? So he meets a butcher on the way to shul. He needed a loan. Why did he need a loan? It was the day of the market. He needed money to buy some cows. The initial reaction to this person was that come back to me after I'm finished davening, and I'll organize a loan for you so you can have it for business. Because if you want to know the strict word of the law, before the Tzemach Tzedek was going to get involved in worldly things, he has to daven, he has to learn, and then he could help this person, maybe with a loan. But then afterwards, before he started davening, but after he kind of pushed off this butcher, Choshev, he thought to himself, the Tzemach Tzedek's thinking to himself, maybe this person needs the loan now. I want to go daven, and I want to go learn, and I want to, I don't do business before I daven because I'm a spiritual holy guy. And meantime, this person needs the loan now. Doesn't have 15, 20 minutes, 2 hours to wait. And because of the base, he ran, the Tzemach Tzedek returned home, got the money, and he gave the amount that this butcher needed, to buy the cattle that he would use later for slaughtering to provide in his store, in his butcher shop. Only after he gave the loan, he goes back to shul now to daven later than he would have liked. What happens? In Skala of Bible, then the Alter Rebbe comes and reveals himself to him. So he doesn't reveal himself to him. He tried all kind of spiritual things, right? He tried to be holy. He went to the mikveh another time, and he learned more Chassidus, and he woke up even earlier, and he gave, maybe he did a little tzedakah, but but it was all about himself. When he was trying to make himself holy, the Alter Rebbe didn't come. But when he was sensitive, to not just to give a loan to someone, but the importance of the timing of the loan. But the person needed the loan now. He couldn't even wait an hour or two, because an hour or two would mean that he would have less advantage of the timing of the market, right? He'd come late to the market with his money. Maybe there won't be any good. There won't be anything for him to buy. And then the Alter Rebbe comes and reveals himself when he's sensitive to someone else. The Lahara, the Rebbe says, Tzadikim afilu b'yes lamatu, a righteous person, even when they're in this world, arheim balabatim ale inyonehem. They're in control of the situation. Like even more so after a tzaddik passes away, when they're no longer in their body. The Alter Rebbe did not reveal himself to the Tzemach Tzedek. Not only after the Tzemach Tzedek proved himself to be extra sensitive, even in a material thing for someone else. This is what the Alter Rebbe wanted. He wanted the Tzemach Tzedek to earn it in this way. That means here. This is what the Alter Rebbe is saying. This is what the Rebbe is saying about Moshe Rabbeinu. You want to see the passion. You want to see the light in what are you doing to what Did you notice that there's a sheep missing? Did you notice that someone ran astray and doesn't want to be part of the crowd? The Sipur Zeh, the Rebbe says this story. The very fact that we've heard this story, it was told over. This has to be a lesson to everyone. When a person is trying to maybe attain the highest levels of spirituality, or knowledge, or understanding, and comprehension of the Torah, how do you understand Torah? By toiling. You have to toil in Torah. And then you have confusions. And come even more so. When a person maybe has to do a favor for someone. You can't, if you need to do a favor for someone, you can't just do it as if you're throwing it over your shoulder casually. But you have to invest in a favor, or just by way. You want to really be involved in someone's life, enclose yourself, get involved in a proper way, not casually. Properly understand where this person's coming from, where this person's holding. The person, Bakash says, or someone who needs your help, whether it's material or spiritual, and help the person according to how that person needs your help. And the Rebbe says it's clear. And a person may say, for me to get involved to invest with this person's needs for my attention is going to confuse me in what I'm trying to do. Right? A person could say, you're trying to daven, and someone asks you a question in Torah or an inspiration that's just going to throw you off your game. So you think to yourself, what's the idea? I'm trying to daven, I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to get on a high level, and here's this person wants to know about what time Shabbos is, or if I'm allowed to or I need a loan for Shabbos. And you think, it's for me to invest time in this person is going to throw me off my own spiritual game. This is on the contrary. If Torah is God's wisdom, it was a gift from God. He forgot it until God gave it as a gift. If you want God to gift you Torah, you want God to gift you a spiritual experience, when do you get a gift from someone? When the person wants to gift you. Why does God want to gift you? What did you do for him? What does it mean, what do you do for him? What do you do for God's children? You can't get spiritual elevations and spiritual levels if it's just about you. Because God, as much as he loves you, he loves a lot of Jews. And he wants to know what you've done for the rest of the Jews. If you want God to give you a gift, you have to give God an incentive. You have to do something for God. That's why he's going to gift you. In order to get the gift. And the Rebbe says, a gift of Torah is better than toiling. So if you think that by investing time in someone else is going to affect your avoda, your service, you're not going to get the gift of Torah. Because to get a gift from God, you have to do something for God. And what God wants is for you to invest in other people. Let's go a little further. It says, this we see. When it comes to our situation, this is the whole point of the story of the Tzemach Tzedek. How did the Tzemach Tzedek have the opportunity to see his grandfather again? After he passes away, not by praying or studying Torah or begging him to help it to come reveal himself. And that didn't work. We want to know how he got a revelation from his grandfather. The Rebbe says he got a revelation from his grandfather by helping another Jew in his parnas, in his livelihood. And I think the lesson, again, we learned different points of the Farbrengen, and we're going to stop here. But I think the point of this Farbrengen was, if you want to put it in a nutshell, is a combination of two things. We learned in the beginning about that it's not about the emes. As much as we need to have emes, it's about actually doing. And even if the emes is not there, even if there's an agenda, it should never stop a person from doing. And the doing shouldn't be about you. The doing should be, when your doing is about helping someone else, like the Tzemach Tzedek was focused on actually giving this person parnasa a few hours earlier. That's when we get to revelation. That's when we see God in the burning bush. So, I'll tell everyone.
Good.
And Hatzlacha B'Dayot.